Well, my friends, I'm not 100% sure what happened. I guess I don't know if I hit a button or what exactly uh, went down here, but I apparently lost internet. So I'm going to actually do a speed test here. Let's see here. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Well, it seems to be back. It seems to be back. I greatly apologize, my friends, for losing losing our connection. Let me roll through. Let me do some current events, and hopefully we'll stay connected here. Um, and if you don't catch us live, catch this live. Hopefully you can catch up with it at a later time. So, uh, again, not a, I guess not a ton of new stuff in the news today, but there was some cool stuff. Well, one of the things that's really, and we've talked about this, one of the things that has become and is continuing to become a great concern is the amount of unemployed people in our country. So it's anticipated that this is going to reach well over 20 million people. Another 6.6 million people lost their job this week. So we're well over 16 million unemployed Americans. Um, and let me scroll down to the bottom. So one of the things that's happening is New York State today, um, and I don't remember the numbers. It was like they had like 8 servers that were, dealing with people. Well, they had to add like 50. So like they just added tons and tons of servers. There's over 1,000 people that are now operating the hotline to help people. And so what they did today was New York State basically turned the servers off from 4 o'clock, I think, till 7 o'clock. And what they were doing is they were streamlining the application process. So they were removing some of the questions for now, just to get people in, to get people, squared away and get the benefits rolling to them. And so for about 3 hours today, they unplugged all the machines, turned them right off. Like I said, I think it was like 4 servers. Then when they plugged them back in, they had 50 brand new servers ready to go. So we'll see. We'll check in tomorrow and see how the new servers rolled out. Okay. So the other thing that we're talking about in New York State is, the governor. I don't know if it's him or, if he just has a really good crew of people that are coming up with these different catchphrases. But now it's New York. We cannot relax, right? So New York, pause. New York, strong. Now it's New York, cannot relax. Um, they think that all their numbers were high, right? That hey, we blew it here. We thought that we were going to be here on numbers. We're here on numbers, but what they're saying, and I think rightfully so, is we could still get here. We need to keep our what together. We need to keep this fight going. We can't relax. We can't let up. And the social distancing has got to. I'll show you my mask. I don't know where it went. We've got to keep that social distancing. So there was a person out here in Middleburg, and she was making these masks, and I bought 8 of them. She was basically making them at like $1 profit, and I said to her, I gave her more money. I gave her a little bit of a tip, and she was like, "No, no, no, please don't." And I said, "Listen, you're doing a great service here," and I gave them to my family. We washed them up, we scrubbed them up good. And, today I went out, we shopped local tonight. We got food at a local restaurant. And, I went in, and I'm not going to lie, I felt like a goof having this mask on me. But like I said to my son, he stayed in the car. I said, I'd rather be safe than sorry. And I'd rather look like a dork than be sick in the hospital on a ventilator. I have type 2 diabetes, which means that I am in a higher risk group than other people. I mean, I'm middle age. I am in, relatively good health. I hike, I walk, I exercise regularly. So I probably could exercise more, but I don't want to take any chances. I don't want to take any chances. So, and even though the signs are going in the right direction, 799 people died today. So our total is now over. It's about 7,100 people in 7,100 New Yorkers have now died of this disease. And a lot of what Governor Cuomo was talking about today. And it is what it is. I've told you guys before, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm not aligned to a political party. I have been very critical of Governor Cuomo. However, I think the way he's looking at all of this. I like his moves. I like his moves. I like his style. He's saying, "Okay, listen. Here's the deal. We were worried. We were scared. We should still be worried. But now it does look like, and we've been talking all week, it looks like we've hit the plateau. Now the plateau could go for a really long time. And I have a feeling it's probably going to go for a while. But now that we think we've hit the plateau, we need to start reflecting, and we need to start thinking about, number one, what got us here. Number two, the difficulties that we had handling it. And number three, what are we going to do afterwards, right? So he's got this thing that he's talking about today, is that, we basically need to really look at 5 things. Number one, we need to repair our economy, right? We should try to build an economy that can withstand this punch, right? And in doing that, we need to combat poverty. This is what he's saying, right? We need to do a better job with housing in New York State. We're looking at a lot of people that could be homeless. And that's one of the reasons why he signed an executive order. And I think it was for 3 months. You can't be evicted, right? You cannot be evicted. You cannot have your house foreclosed upon. So you're getting a little bit of grace period there. The fourth thing he's saying is we need to look at healthcare. There's still way too many New Yorkers that don't have healthcare. Some of these people that have gotten the coronavirus had no healthcare at all. So, we've got to, moving forward, we need to do something about that. And the fifth thing is nutrition. I want everybody to really think about one of the main roles of school right now, right? School is, and I don't mean schooling. I don't mean education. I mean our school. Our school has become a community hub where people are getting food, right? People are getting a necessity right now. And one of the things that I've been reflecting on a lot and thinking about a lot is, think about the winter breaks. I mean, we've got like 400 people a day coming to, or is it every other day? I can't remember. I think it's every other day we're doing the food distribution. 400 people are coming, 400 people are getting food. Wowzer. Well, what are those 400 people doing on breaks? What are those 400 people doing over the summer? What are those 400 families doing over the summer? If they need food. So, obviously the governor is looking at all this and saying, okay, moving forward, we've got to make New York a better place when it comes to people eating in their nutrition. And probably, I'm assuming that a lot of these people that are susceptible to COVID and that have died, some of them probably they're not eating properly, so their bodies were susceptible to start with. They're not the healthiest people. They didn't have great health care. So moving forward, we got to do something about it. So here's one of the really cool things that happened. A casino developer, the Las Vegas Sands, and I guess they own a couple casinos. They took their private jet and I can't remember, it was some crazy millions of items of these PPE, right? This personal protection. I think that's what it is, personal protection, whatever, all the gowns and masks and face shields and, everything that our medical workers need. So they sent that to us and it landed in Albany today. Excuse me. And a lot of it was headed to, the hospitals here upstate. And I know some of it was headed downstate, but, and I know especially at Ellis Hospital, they were talking about they were down to days. They only had days of these, masks and gowns and all that kind of stuff. What else? Oh, so here's something else that I thought was interesting is that China has not rolled out a bailout, a stimulus like we have. They've been under, I can't remember officially how many days, but I know like some of the cities, I think the big city is at Hunan. I could have the name of the city wrong. It's like 10 million people live in this big industrial city. It's been on lockdown for 80 days, right? We're at day like 39 or something like that. They've been on total, complete lockdown for 80 days, and they're just getting out of it. And they are not doing a stimulus like us to bail people out and help people. So if China, I don't know. So I mean that, you got to think like if China can do it, could we do it? I don't know. I don't know. What else? If you live or know somebody in Troy, Stewart's, one of the Stewart's in Troy has had a worker test positive. So yesterday we talked about BK and Latham. This is now a Stewart's in Troy had a employee. So what they're trying to do is find out the hours in which that worker at Stewart's work so they can get that out to the public. They did that today with the BK worker. They said on these days from these times, if you went, then you need to go into quarantine. If you went to the BK lounge, you need to go into quarantine. And I guess this worker worked like 5 to 2 every day, and the worker worked at the drive-through and at the main, cashier, setup or whatever. So they're telling anybody that went in on these, it was like 8 days in a row, you need to self-quarantine. All right, so a couple other things that are coming out of all of this, which I think it's, the right time to be talking about it. Well, actually, okay, three things. So apparently, the president has asked for another $250 billion to come out of to come out in stimulus money. But apparently, Democrats are not happy with it because they're saying too much of this is not going to small businesses. So they are holding it up. They're committed to pass it. They're committed to um, make that money available to Americans, but the rollout of the SBA loans is not going well right now, I guess. And there's still too much. There's not enough regulation to really help this money go out to the small businesses. So the Democrats right now are saying, yeah, we're going to hold up this bill until we have clear guidelines as to how this money is going to go out. The other thing the Democrats in Congress are looking at is this. They want the ability for voters in November to vote by mail. So they want to push us to on November 3rd, we're voting for president by mailing it in. So a lot of Republicans are saying no, right? President Trump has a number of times during the week said, no, I want voter IDs. He thinks that when you go vote, you should have a government issued voter ID. We've talked about this in class before, right? The Supreme Court has ruled that requiring people to have these types of IDs and charging them to have these IDs to go out and vote, that is essentially a poll tax. And poll taxes are illegal. They've been illegal since 1965. So until the government is ready to pay for you to have that photo ID to go and vote, I don't know if we're going to have it or not. But I'm not so sure that we're going to be voting by mail come the general election in November. Now, the one thing that we are going to do in New York State on June 23rd is going to be the New York State primaries. And you are going to be able to send in what's called an absentee ballot. So here's what happens is in any election, in any public election, there's an absentee ballot. So for instance, if you're 18 years old and you live in Rotterdam, when the school district holds their budget vote, which now all school and library budget votes have been pushed back past June 1st, if you were going to vote in that, but let's say that, hey, I'm going on a cruise and I'm not going to be here that day. Well, we're not going to say, no, you can't vote. What we're going to do is we're going to say you have to fill out an absentee ballot. So what you do is you go in and they give you a form. And, you say, okay, I'm going to be on this cruise to Jamaica, right? And they say, okay, we'll prove it. So see, here, I've got my plane tickets. Here's my stub. I paid for the cruise, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here you go. Great. So you fill that out, you sign it. They give you the absentee ballot. And then you have to typically have mailed that. You have to have mailed that in so that it's received by the day of the election. And then what they do is they crack all those open on the day of election. And then they check it against the names that people have signed up. And they say, okay, well, these are all good. We'll add these to the vote. And there you go. So just because you're not in your polling district your polling district, voting district, I'm sorry, on the day of the national election, you can vote, even in the state election for governor, Congress, whatever. So you will be able to mail it in for the primary. And they're basically saying that they're going to kind of open it up in New York State for the absentee ballots for the primary, because we're not really going to be out of this, right? We're not going to be out of this anymore. So they're saying we're to help promote social distancing. We're going to let people absentee ballot and mail them in. Now I got to check because I think, and you know what, we could talk about this. It's a little, our time's almost up, but maybe we can talk about this tomorrow. I think in Canada they get to do it online, and I could be wrong about that, but I think in Canada they are given, every voter is given like a code. You go in, you type in the code on whatever the computer program, whatever the web page is, I don't know. You cast your vote. You get to do it once. If you screw up, and you're done. And bam, that's it. And I think they've been doing this for quite some time. I don't know. Maybe that's a better direction for us to go in. I know one thing people have said is that we really don't have a lot of voter participation. One thing that maybe we should start doing is that election day should go back to being kind of like a holiday. The first Tuesday of every November, schools are closed. Most jobs are closed so that people can go out and do their civic duty and they can vote. And I don't know how I feel about that, but typically from 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, a lot of these polling places are open. So you would think that you should really be able to go out. I mean, typically it takes about, I don't know, 5 minutes to do it. And it's not just because I live where I live. Even when I lived in Delmar, when I lived in Albany, it doesn't take a long time to go and vote. But maybe, I don't know, maybe we need to do it. All right, so this day in history, let's do our quick rundown. In 1965, holy cow, I put 1865, in Wilbur McLean's front parlor, Robert E. Lee and General Ulysses S. Grant come together, and Robert E. Lee formally surrenders, and the Civil War, for all intents and purposes, is over. Some Confederate units held out, but for the most part, the war is over. I thought I saw this today, and this is kind of interesting. Actually, let me back up, and then I'll go to that. Well, they're all interesting. But in 1859, so I did this, I guess, a little out of turn. Samuel Longhorn Clemens. You may not know who that is, but you do know who it is. 1859, Samuel Longhorn Clemens, who you know as the author Mark Twain, is given his license as a steamboat captain. That is one of, growing up, that is, I think, is it Hannibal, Missouri? I think that he grew up in. This is one of the things that he wanted to do in his life. He wanted to be a riverboat pilot. He had kind of a very, like a nomad, bounced around. He was actually in the Confederate Army for a short period of time. But he, will become one of our big American authors. And I think just about, maybe next to Benjamin Franklin, the most quotable American. Okay, sorry I jumped out of turn there. So in 1924, there was this really crazy thing going around, kind of similar to what was going on today, but it wasn't with humans. It was with cattle. There was a thing called hoof and mouth disease. And this disease was running rampant through cattle. And I think the worst hit state was California. But they just had no idea what to do. They had no idea how to deal with it. So, they were basically, if they found that one of their animals had it, they were slaughtering them, and they couldn't use the meat. They couldn't use anything. So this was 1924. It was ripping the country apart, ripping our food, one of our food industries apart. This on this date in 1940, again, maybe not a big thing for us to think about it today, but certainly at the time, during the 1930s, the Allied countries appeased Germany. And on this day, Germany makes a big sweeping move. They've already taken, by this point, Poland and Czechoslovakia. They now invade Norway, right? So on this date, 1940, Germany takes Norway and a good portion of the Scandinavian peninsula. On this day in 1959, and again, this might not be something that's really super awesome and super like influential to us, but on this day in 1959, NASA rolls out and says these will be the first astronauts to enter space. John Glenn, Gus Grisham, and Alan Shepard, probably three of the more popular, next to like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. But these guys are the ones that are going to really start to get us off the planet. And of course, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong get us to the moon. But these guys were rock stars. They were unbelievable superstars, and they were very, very brave men. They really were. What else do we have? Oh, here's the heartbreaker. And it's funny. I don't know what it was. I go to a couple different websites looking up the big things that happen on this day in history. And the one thing I kept finding was that on this day in 1970, the world ended. Paul McCartney left the Beatles. And you guys might not think of that as like a big shocking thing, right? But for about 6 years, the Beatles just rocked the entire world. And now, Paul is leaving. Paul's walking away, for whatever reasons, right? Money, and they started arguing about money and this, that, and the other. But Sir Paul McCartney leaves the Beatles on this day in 1970. Last but not least, in the year 2003, this is a big day when, after the second invasion of Iraq, there is this huge milestone where the Iraqi people, we've taken Baghdad, and the Iraqi people wrap these big ropes around the major, this huge statue of Saddam Hussein, and they rip it down. And this is like a big moment for us. Again, it's 3 times in my life we've invaded Iraq, but this was the second time. This is after we've accused them of having weapons of mass destruction, and after 9/11. And, we invade that country because we believe they have links to terror organizations. They might be developing nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. And, well, I guess we'll just leave that as a big historical question mark, whether they really did or not. They really didn't, right? They Saddam Hussein, after he was captured and was interviewed, not on the news, but interviewed by, a lot of people, basically, the different military authorities, he said, well, I said that I had him because me saying that I had him, kept Iran and other countries from attacking me and invading me. And it worked. So, that's why he kept up that charade. But that's all I have, my friends, for this day in history. And I'm sorry that halfway through our go live today, we had some, technical difficulties there. I'm really not too sure what's going on, but I think that, these days more than ever, our interwebs is being overloaded. And, I have really good DSL internet, and, but even that, it's just being overloaded, and things are being strained. So I guess we should expect those things to happen. But we're doing good. And I know tonight the reading was a little grotesque because of, reading about the cows and the pigs being slaughtered and this machinery. But that's what this book is about, right? This book is about this brutality, and nobody wants to see the sausages being made, right? Everybody loves to have a hot dog, everybody loves to have a sausage, everybody loves to have a hamburger, but nobody wants to see how it's made, and this is how, at least at the time, it's being made. So again, thanks for joining me, my friends. I hope that we're back together. I know we'll be back together in the fall, but I hope that we get to see each other this year. Maybe we can even just get the school to put on a big old, I don't know, end of the year big picnic or something, and get the whole school together, and everybody can just kind of see everybody and have some fun. But I guess, I don't know, we should keep the social distancing going. So, but anywho, I miss you guys, and I hope to see you soon. Have a great night. Run the marathon. Don't run the sprint, right? Take it one day at a time. Good night, my friends.